Episode 2 of the Lucas and Lucas podcast, continuing the tradition from Emerson College. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas. And Mike, we got to start. The New York Football Giants, Monday Night Football. They lose 26-16 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you were so excited for this season last week. You're telling me Daniel Jones is going to run it up. You were very excited. I could feel the enthusiasm on your side. But the game turned, obviously, late third quarter. Giants down 6. Daniel Jones, 2nd and 3 from the 4-yard line. Just threw a heave to nobody, picked off by Cam Hayward. That was the nail in the coffin for the Giants. They lose. Saquon Barkley, what did he have? 6 rushes for 15 carries for 6 yards. I mean, how that is just completely inexcusable. Eli and Ben Roethlisberger now tied on an all-time touchdown list with 366. Ben's about to destroy him on that list, solidifying how he had a much better career. And those are my thoughts on Monday Night Football. What about you?
Well, I'm glad you let me talk on this podcast, Frankie. You started off, introduced me, and then just go on a 2-minute rant. But I'll start with the Daniel Jones interception in the red zone. I had PTSD of Eli Manning throwing left-handed passes against the Cowboys about 15 years ago. It was almost like you do a great drive, and then you just completely negate everything positive you did with such a horrendous interception, which was kind of Eli's calling card for the middle of his career outside of those 2 Super Bowl runs. A couple of good things from the Giants, though. I thought they were going to lose by 30. They lost by 10.
Wait, so after last week, you thought they were going to lose by 30 in this game? You were after all the excitement last week?
Listen, the Steelers' defense is legit. I had no confidence in the offensive line being able to protect Jones. And like I told you last week, Frank, I thought they're going to go 6-10, 7-9, but they're going to start building the foundation of what could be a successful franchise. And I think we saw a lot of those building blocks in place. I thought Daniel Jones actually played pretty well. Pro Football Focus gave him an 81.2 grade, the highest rated Giant in the game. Minus those 2 interceptions, he made some big-time throws, a touchdown to Darius Slayton across the middle.
Everyone on Twitter lost their mind after that initial touchdown.
It was a beautiful throw, and after watching Eli Manning throw ducks in that blue and white uniform for so long, it was just, almost mind-boggling to see a spiral go 40 yards downfield and not kind of waffle in the air. So, yeah, it was awesome. It was the best moment of my night last night. I was excited. I screamed Danny Dimes. I almost bought another Danny Dimes t-shirt. And then literally on the next drive, he threw an interception, which prompted me to tweet more like Danny Penny's. Not his best play. But, yeah, Andrew Thomas at left tackle. I didn't like the pick at the time. He looked outstanding last night for a rookie. The right side of the line was putrid. That has to be addressed because their next 2 opponents, Chicago and San Francisco, can absolutely get pressure on the quarterback. Saquon Barkley has to stop hurtling dudes in the open field.
Yeah, do you like that? When he does that, what goes through your mind?
My heart stopped. Saquon is –
everyone's like, oh, my God, Saquon, he leaped over somebody.
I don't care. Unless he's by the goal line, do not hurdle Saquon. That extra 3 yards you get from hurdling somebody is not worth possibly tearing your ACL, spraining your knee, landing. The risk-reward on that is so small that unless it's a touchdown in a crucial game and he's near the goal line and those 3 yards could lead to 6 points versus 3, don't hurdle. My heart stops. It's awesome to watch. The dude's so athletic, he makes it look effortless, and obviously it's not. But it's not worth it in my mind, and my heart stops. There was no running room for him yesterday. The offensive line trying to create creases in the running game, non-existent. I think Pittsburgh's defense had a lot to do with that. But I did like what I saw from Joe Judge. Frank, I want a question for you. You watched the game last night, right?
Yeah, of course.
That was the hardest I've ever seen the Giants hit. And I don't know if it's just the fact that I haven't seen football in so long, but I can't remember any Pat Shurmur or Bob McAdoo teams hitting with that intensity. So that was just a pleasant.
I didn't notice anything like that. Of all my takeaways from the game, that was definitely not one of them. But the whole Saquon thing, is this a part? I was talking to somebody, I forget who it was. Is Saquon just so much about, being on social media? You see so many Saquon commercials. He's at the Hulu commercial. I feel like he's got like a million different commercials. Is that him just trying to, raise his exposure level? Because I feel the same way as you. I find it disturbing, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna get himself decapitated out there with coming hurdles. But social media loves it. The announcers are like, oh my God, look at Saquon, and you see the GIFs and the tweets and all the videos like go viral. And I think he likes it. I think that's why he does it.
Well, he does it because it works. Very few people actually execute the hurdle. He does. And if you remember back to his Penn State days, his breakout game against Iowa on the ABC 8 o'clock game, he hurdled an Iowa defender, scored that 75-yard touchdown. That's what really cemented his legacy as one of the best college running backs we've seen in the last 10 years. So that move is in his arsenal. It's not like he's just pulling it out that he shouldn't be doing it. As a fan, I just don't see, and I don't like the risk-reward ratio there. It's just such a risky play. Not only can you get hit in a weird, awkward position that your body's not used to getting hit, you can just land weird. When you jump that, I mean, he has like a 7-foot vertical jump off. It's up like the sabermetrics and the sports science of how he gets that high is almost unfathomable. So just landing, his ankle could tweak, could land on someone's foot. It just scares the crap out of me, Frank. I would much prefer him just lower his shoulder, run over a guy at that point for the extra 2 yards. But, man, Saquon is special. When he gets the ball in open space like he did in that one screenplay, that dude is tough to stop.
I should have opened the podcast with this. I didn't even notice your Rockets and Stars jersey in the background. When did you get those? Did you just put this up today?
I do not own either of these. This is David Waxman and Travis Brown's jersey. This is my in-home studio for anyone watching. I do my sportscast from here because coronavirus, so every week I change the jerseys in and out.
I thought every time I see it, you had Emerson jerseys in the background.
I've had Emerson jersey. I've had Globetrotters jersey. I've had some old Aggie jerseys. This was the rotation. But since I've hung the Stars jersey up.
When did you put that up?
2 weeks ago. I think they're 7-1, and my buddy says I can't have it back. I have to keep it hanging until they lose. So the Stars made the Stanley Cup Finals last night, so it will be continuing to hang behind me.
Who's number one on the Rockets?
It's a T-Mac jersey.
Oh, wow. Oh,
I also have a Yao Ming jersey, a Yao Ming Rockets jersey back there, and a Clyde Drexler. So once again, not mine. People have just donated to my cause. If you have any jerseys you want to be hung up, I'll gladly hang them up. I got a Phoenix Suns Devin Booker jersey coming on Wednesday.
It's not a bad background thought of mine because I do have a lot of unbelievable jerseys, as you probably know.
Hang it. Look, and I'm in a corner of my living room right now. You never know. My TV's literally. I'm touching my TV right now. But yeah, no one on TV knows when I'm on TV, so it works.
All right, so Giants are 0-1. Next game is the next 5 games: Bears, 49ers, Rams, Cowboys, and then they play the Washington football team. Where do they get the first win of those games? I'll read them again: Bears, 49ers.
They win next week.
You think they beat the Bears?
Yeah, it's because Mitchell Trubisky. Absolutely no faith. We'll talk about him in a sec, but I have absolutely no faith in Mitchell Trubisky. And if I'm picking a game, Washington's the other easiest one. The other games I think are losses. That's a tough gauntlet to start the season for the Giants.
All right. Well, I know you said you didn't get to see a ton of the New York Football Jets game, but I'll just run through real quick. So opening kickoff, they get a really nice return. Penalty, typical special team penalty. It was a story of the season last year. And after that, it was just straight downhill. They had 9 penalties for 95 yards. Every time the defense seemed to make a stop, there was a holding penalty or a pass interference penalty. Just the same old crap I've been dealing with all my life. They trailed 21-0 with about 7 minutes to go, midway through the second quarter. The game was over. I was doing cardio for the entire first half. It's like whenever the Jets play, I get these cardio superpowers that don't exist at any other point of the season or of the entire year for me. And it's a great way for me to get in shape. And instead of sitting back and, casually enjoying watching the Jets, which I have not been able to do. And
there's not much enjoyment from a Jets game, though.
But I can't remember the last time I've been able to sit back and wow, this is really a lot of fun to watch. I'm actually enjoying what I'm seeing right now. Because even last year, Darnold had a 7-6 record last year. He was over 500 as a starter last year. But since they started like 1-8, it was all meaningless. And that's my biggest fear. Pierre Desir, they're with a free agent cornerback position, got benched. Le'Veon Bell hurt his hamstring. Grandpa Frank Gore is now the running back, and things are just a complete debacle. Their next games are the 49ers, who came off a loss to the Cardinals, so they're going to come into MetLife Stadium angry as hell, and Nick Bosa might rip Darnold's head off. So, I don't know where the Jets are going to win a game here. They got the 49ers and they got the Colts. I guess they could beat the Colts. The Broncos did beat great last night, so I'm not excited. I wrote an article before the season started. I am not excited at all. The first game of the season did nothing. I expect the Jets to compete with the Jaguars, even though they won for the first overall pick in the draft, and that's where I stand.
I'll just say this because I didn't get a chance to see much of the Jets game, but just like Jets fans are quitting on the season already, you quit halfway through on your cardio.
Before it started.
You only got through one half of cardio. Shame on you, Frankel. That's all I had.
I had to eat and I had to go to work. I would have stayed the whole time, but I had to eat.
Okay. That's it. I have no thought. The Jets thing. We can end the discussion right there.
It's just like, as much as I knew what was going to happen, you sort of convince yourself that, okay, this might turn out to be somewhat decent, but it was just a complete debacle on every single level. Hopefully Denzel Mims comes back, but seems that they just weren't ready to play. And it's
let me ask you one Jets question. Is Sam Darnold good?
I've made this point before. I think that if he's on a team like the Ravens or an organization like the Ravens or, the 49ers, I think that his fortunes are different. I think that his talent is being wasted by the Jets. Because, look at their weapons.
They don't have any. They simply do not have the worst offensive set in the entire league, without a doubt.
All right, moving on. Jets are, I just said they're irrelevant. They don't matter. I don't really want to talk about them. And anyone who asks, people, they're just irrelevant. Don't even bother watching them. Don't pay attention to them. And before you know it, here's what's going to happen. They're going to start out 1-9. Then they'll win 5.
Win a couple games.
And go from getting the first pick or the second pick to the 7th or 8th pick. And
that's what they do every year.
Yeah, it's
that is the New York Football Jets for you. Just enough hope to think that there's a chance or a semblance of complacency and normalcy, and not good enough to ever be good.
So Thomas Edward Brady played his first game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, lost to the Saints. What did you make of how Thomas Edward Brady Jr. looked?
Do you want me to start with Brady or just start on my thoughts on the game in general?
What do you feel?
I want to start with this. I am more optimistic about the Bucs moving forward than I am about the Saints, despite the outcome of Week 1. Let me tell you why. Drew Brees is Chad Pennington 2.0 right now. With a couple more Hall of Fame resume bullet points, he can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. And if you can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field, your offense is severely handicapped and limited. And now that defenses can see that. Brees' arm deteriorated by the end of last season. And in the playoffs, he was not the same quarterback he was to start the season. If he's already in Week 1, the very first game of the year, having arm trouble and struggling to throw the ball downfield to extend that defense, they'll start pressing guys at the line of scrimmage, putting 8 in the box, and making it extremely difficult to get the ball into his guys' hands, especially Michael Thomas, who was MIA in this game. Killed my fantasy team, not that anyone cares. But Michael Thomas just nowhere to be found. Alvin Kamara had a good game. He's a dangerous weapon. But if Brees can't throw the ball 10 yards, I don't know how this team ends up winning games, despite the fact they beat the Bucs. The Bucs it was funky. Brady was really good at times and really, really bad at times. I think that's just part of being with a new team and a new set of weapons for the first time in 20 years. But I think overall it's pretty promising. I thought the Bucs looked pretty good. Their defense looked pretty good.
Brady looked like he was 110 years old. He looked.
Then how old did Brees look if Brady looked 110? 652?
But Brees, if worse comes to worse, if he's under pressure, he can scramble, he can dump it off to Kamara. And first of all, he's a guy who just probably without the preseason just needs a little, and the whole training camp thing. I think he'll be fine. I'm not worried about the Saints at all. They'll be fine. They'll be in the mix for that. They'll win that division, and that'll be crystal clear. Brady though, this is a whole different animal for Brady because new weapons. He doesn't have his, he's got that Scotty Miller guy, but who knows if he's a Julian Edelman or Wes Walker type. But Brady under duress, he's so skittish in that pocket. And I think that teams are just going to be blitzing him back and forth all year, and he doesn't have that security blanket like Edelman or Walker to bail him out in that offense. I think that even though Brady, the last 3 times he's lost the first game of the season, he's gone on to go to the Super Bowl. But, man, I really think that he is not the same guy at all. And if I were a Buccaneers fan, I'd be like, damn, that is not what I wanted. And
you don't think that has anything to do with the fact that this was his first live game scenario and situation with all these new dudes? His offensive line did not play well. Bruce Arians called out left tackle Donovan Smith, which if your coach is calling out your left tackle in Week 1, that doesn't scream positives moving forward. And that is an issue, but he had that connection with all the New England receivers. They were able to communicate without even looking at each other.
Well, the strength of that Patriots offense was the fact that it was so quick. Brady was getting rid of the ball so quick. Evans and Godwin and these guys, these are all downfield threats. It takes time for them to get open. This isn't a Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, Wes Welker.
So don't say Sanu. Sanu is a disaster in New England. Whatever. I get what you're saying.
Besides Randy Moss, Brady never was a threat in his career, but that was 10 years ago. And now he's got, like I said, Evans and Godwin, who it takes time for them to get open down the field. And, if you get to Brady even a little bit, he panics. He freaks out. He throws the ball in the dirt. He'll just sail the ball out of bounds. He can't move. moving is out of the question. So that is extremely concerning for me. I'm surprised that you took more from the Saints than from the Bucks in that game.
I just think if you know a team can't pass the ball downfield, you're a Jets fan. You remember Chad Penny. When teams know you can't beat them deep, it eliminates half the playbook, and then they can just creep up, jump short routes, and it becomes a serious hassle. I think the Saints are going to win a lot of regular season games. I think they're a really well-rounded, talented team, but come postseason, unless Drew Brees changes and shows me that he can throw the ball deep, I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. The Bucks, I just think it's week one. I mean, it's a brand new team. Everyone on this team's new. I mean, between your quarterback, your offensive, philosophy, you don't have Jameis anymore. It actually was kind of funny, by the way, that Brady threw 2 horrible interceptions, a la Jameis Winston, against Jameis Winston, who was watching from the Saints sideline. I know Bruce Arians had to hate that, but it was week one. I'm not going to overreact to the Bucks and the offense not clicking on all cylinders, because after having no preseason games, a Zoom offseason, I didn't expect any of these new quarterbacks to really light it up in week one. So it was more that I kind of anticipated them having a few struggles offensively than anything else. And that's why I was more surprised by the Saints' just inability to get Michael Thomas involved and inability to stretch the defense than I was by the Bucks kind of not being on the same page.
All right, last week, one takeaway, then we'll get to our big overreactions. Field goal kicking, my God. Just a complete abomination. Last night, Stephen Gostkowski, 4 missed field goals, and then redeeming himself.
Did you see, can I interrupt for 1 sec? Did you see after he made the game-winning field goal, just the way he walked off the field? Like, he just made a game-winning field goal, and he knew he was getting cut in 10 minutes. That was hysterical.
You think he's on the Titans week 2?
Yes, because Vrabel is a Patriots guy, and Gostkowski's a Patriots guy, but he misses one more kick and he's gone. One more is gone.
This story would have been so great if he missed that kick. That would have just been the cherry on top of just a complete epic story on Monday Night Football. But he made the kick, and he'll probably have to see another day. Randy Bullock missed a game-tying 31-yard field goal for the Bengals that spoiled Burrow's debut. And so I feel like there was a missed extra points left and right. I believe the Jets had one. I know the Steelers had one. Just that lack of training, maybe that lack of, preseason and show it out with the kickers.
It's just weird to me because kicking feels like a thing you could do on your own and you don't need full.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the excuse is. They were terrible.
No, I agree. I'm just saying it feels like that's something that the pandemic shouldn't have affected. I thought offensive line play would have been sloppy. I thought the timing between quarterbacks and receivers would have been sloppy. Kicking something you could go out and kick by yourself in an open field if you have the tee and a field goal post. So I was surprised, but I just think kicking's hard in the league. Like, there's just so few kickers. There's so few good kickers. There's so few good kickers out there now. It's almost impossible or invaluable when you have a good one like Justin Tucker. Like, you can't pay him enough.
All right. Week 1 overreactions. Give me your biggest week 1 overreaction.
Biggest week 1 overreaction. Philadelphia is going to be just fine. They're going to be just fine. Anyone calling them out, calling Carson Wentz out. Carson Wentz played horrible. That game was on TV. I got a chance to actually watch that whole game. He played unbelievable the first 17 minutes of the game and absolutely putrid the last 47. 8 sacks, Frank. He took 8 sacks. And Carson Wentz, this is a dude who's been hurt time after time after time again, continued to try to run around the pocket and make things happen instead of just throwing the ball away when the coverage was good or when the offensive protection broke down. Carson Wentz is going to get hurt again, and that derails this whole Philadelphia season. But I think this may be a wake-up call for them. I think this could be almost the exact punch in the face they need to kind of right the wrongs and fix the ship, because they are so talented at so many important position groups across their football team that there's no way this team won't be good. In my mind, there's no way this team doesn't end up being a very, very good football team by the end of the year. Washington's defense deserves all the credit in the world. They completely threw Philly off their game. And I thought Doug Peterson actually got outcoached by Ron Rivera. And that IV at halftime, I know it was planned. That has to be the greatest motivational tactic in the history of the world. Ron Rivera should get an IV at halftime every game for the rest of the year, because I don't know how you see that and don't get just absolutely amped up and juiced to play. But I don't think Washington's very good. Their defensive line's good. I don't think their offense is that good. And I think Philly, anyone writing them off after week 1 is stupid. They're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the Eagles at all. Washington, though, I'd be shocked if they finish above 500. If they finish above 500, all bets are off for this.
I would too. Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Here are my two big week one overreactions. First one is, and I said this to people before the season started, Kyler Murray is going to win MVP, and nothing that happened in week one changed my mind. 26 of 40, 230, should have been 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins was ruled like an inch short, so cost him that. 13 carries, 91 yards and a touchdown. Goes into the 49ers house, beats them. I think this is the beginning of the Kyler Murray taking over the NFL.
Former Aggie, brother. Former Aggie.
Aggie?
He was a freshman. He started his career at A&M.
All right, whatever. You're taking credit for that. Whatever. He's an Oklahoma guy. I think he's all world. I have 2 fantasy teams. He's on one of them. I am extremely thrilled and excited that I have him. I think that the Cardinals, him and Hopkins just look like they've been working together for their whole lives. And Arizona, to me, is a juggernaut. I think they make the playoffs. I think the 49ers will miss the playoffs, continuing that Super Bowl trend of teams that lose the Super Bowl.
And can we talk about that real quick?
Sure.
Why do you think – because the Super Bowl hangover is real.
I have no explanation for it. There's no – unless it's just so demoralizing that, like, you come so close and it's like – and the feeling of just, oh, no, we got to start over from scratch and start off at the beginning of the race again when we were right there. They were so close. We were up in the fourth quarter, and it's just one of those things that you may never recover from. Cam Newton never recovered from it against the Broncos. The Seahawks haven't recovered from it when Russell Wilson was picked at the 1 yard line.
The Falcons are the team that come to mind to me. There was no way that team the following year has brought everybody back and actually improved in a couple positions.
Who knows if the Rams will ever recover after losing that Super Bowl to the Patriots?
It's crazy. It's crazy how the losing team of the Super Bowl just can't seem to get their feet going. I still think San Francisco is going to be fine. They are so good defensively that I'd be shocked if they don't kind of right the ship. But Arizona's good. Like, straight up, Arizona is good, and people
they're the new girl on the block or whatever you call it.
And deservedly so. Kyler Murray has all the swagger in the world. Cliff Kingsbury's a cool head coach. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best Showtime receivers. They have all the pieces that make them an entertaining, fun team. Plus the fact they're good, and now that they look like they have a defense, they've always had the offense. Now that they have a defense, that NFC West division is loaded because I think the Rams are good. I think the Seahawks are good.
Who misses the playoffs? Of those 4 teams, who misses the playoffs?
My gut still says there. I think Arizona's 1 year away from being a playoff team.
I disagree. I think the 49ers missed the playoffs. The Rams, I'm not completely sold on yet. I think the Seahawks and the Cardinals definitely make the Seahawks can win that division hands down. Assuming Russell Wilson stays healthy, that's all. That division is all Seahawks. And I'll always be a sucker for Kyler Murray in that team. He's just so electrifying, assuming he stays healthy too.
Yeah. One more overreaction?
I have one more.
Oh, you go first.
The Jets will be in the mix all season for the number 1 overall pick. And I think they might get it. And I think they may end up with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. I don't think that's crazy. I also think the Colts are not nearly as bad as they should.
The Colts suck.
They're not nearly as bad as they should.
Defend that stupid franchise. Philip Rivers is watched. Paying him $25 million was the single worst decision of the entire offseason. I don't know what they saw in him. He was done with the Chargers. He stinks. He is trash. He is garbage. He lost to the freaking Jaguars. He's got nothing left. It's over for him.
Once again, I think that's more of a week 1, no offseason, new team issue than it was a Philip Rivers issue. I don't think Philip Rivers is great, but I do have a fantastic stat for you. Give me 1 sec to pull it up, Frank. Are you ready to hear this?
Better be good.
Where is it? So we always find ourselves talking about Philip Rivers with the ball late in a game down by a score, right? Do you want to hear his stats over the last decade in the final minute, final 6 minutes of 1-4 games? 50% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 23 interceptions.
Yeah, he stinks.
Is there a less clutch quarterback in football than Philip Rivers?
Yeah.
Who?
Sam Darnold. What is Sam Darnold done? What is Daniel Jones? There's a bunch of guys who don't have.
But those guys haven't been in the situation. You've seen time after time again Philip Rivers in that situation and come up short. I know he's made a couple of big time plays.
He's come up short. The Detroit Lions come up short every game of every single season. So there's that.
I get, yeah. All right. If you want to go that route, I was saying a quarterback that actually has a proven track record of being in those games. But Yeah, Philip Rivers last decade has not been clutch. But I do think the Colts as a team, though, they'll be just fine.
All right, the Colts are missing the playoffs. Like I said, I don't know what you see in that, but you're crazy. Either way,
I like their team. I may be sold, but
Tuesday night, Game 7, Clippers Nuggets. Clippers a 7.5-point favorite. Over under is 207.5. The Clippers are 0-7 all time with a chance to clinch a spot in the conference finals. The Nuggets are attempting to become the first team ever to overcome a pair of 3-1 deficits in the same postseason. They're 5-0 facing elimination in these playoffs. In the last 2 games, they've overcome double-digit second-half deficits, including a 19-point deficit in Game 6. I mean, to me, this is Lakers-Clippers written all over it. Do you see any scenario where the Nuggets can pull this off tonight?
No, but I also didn't see any scenario they came back from 19 down in the second half. I saw no scenario they could force a Game 7 after being down 3-1. And I saw no scenario of them winning in the first-round series against Utah after being down 3-1. So Denver has shown they could overcome me having absolutely no faith in them whatsoever. But even in the last 2 games, the Clippers have been a better team for more than half the game in each of those games. And then they just completely fall apart, take their foot off the gas.
Right? Like, what do you attribute? I mean, that's Kawhi freaking Leonard, the claw, the ice in his veins closer.
The best playoff basketball player in the world right now, which is just unbelievable that he let his team drop from the level they're playing.
I would say that. I mean, LeBron, it's still LeBron, but okay, go ahead.
One of the 2 best. I'd take Kawhi, but that's a whole different argument. Yeah, it's shocking. And I think a lot of the Clippers guys have lost a lot of money this postseason. Montrezl Harrell, the 6th man of the year, has looked atrocious in the postseason. Lou Williams can't seem to get his game going. Paul George, we've seen the great Paul George. We've seen the horrible Paul George. Kawhi is the only really constant they have on the team. And in a Game 7 where everyone is a little tighter, it's tougher to make shots. Defense is hunkered down. We saw in the Boston-Toronto series. It's the best defense teams will play and for the longest duration in the entire postseason. I still like the Clippers, but anything can happen in a Game 7, and Jamal Murray could go supernova hot again. And if he does that, I wouldn't be shocked to see Denver win. I wouldn't be shocked, but it's going to take a supernova Jamal Murray performance to put them over the top.
Fallout from the Clippers. I mean, how do you recover from that? A 3-1 series lead with a chance to go to the conference. I mean, like that. I mean, how do you come back from that? Does Doc Rivers coach a team next year? Like, I feel like that calls for, like, massive changes.
Yeah, he would coach, but I'm not sure the roster would look all that similar, despite the fact that you still have Paul George, Kawhi Leonard as your top 2 options just because they're under contract for another year. But I think they'd have to make some trades, whether it's Harrell, whether it's Lou Williams, whether it's Shamet, to get some new life in there because for whatever reason, this team on paper should absolutely stomp Denver. There's no way Denver should be able to hang with them. But Denver, like I said, 2 double-digit comebacks in the second half, the last 2 games, down 3-1. The Clippers should have stepped on their throat and ended the series 2 games ago. And the fact that we're going to a Game 7, which is giving LeBron and the Lakers that much more rest, just doesn't bode well for either team moving forward.
What's your prediction for tonight? Who wins and why? And who wins and what's the score?
I think the Clippers win. I think they actually win convincingly, and they kind of make us all look stupid for doubting.
What's the score? Give me a score.
107-89.
Okay, so
Clippers defense steals the show tonight.
Over under is 207.5. Each of the last 7 Game 7s in the NBA have gone under the total.
I'll go under. Yeah.
One has eclipsed 200 points. So you're saying that trend continues.
Yeah.
It's that. I mean, like the Celtics Raptors Game 7 the other day was like what was it, 92-87. Yeah. I don't know, these Game 7s and eclipsing 200 points seems to be. I mean, the play seems to be the under in this game, but I hate betting over under, so I'm not going to do it.
It's just tough. Defenses actually play defense for 48 minutes. They play about 36 minutes in a regular playoff game. They play 48 minutes in a Game 7, and you're just jittery. I mean, every shot matters in a Game 7, so the intensity of each, even an open 3, just feels harder than normally would.
Trivia question. So there have been 5 franchises who have never made an NBA Finals. The Clippers and the Nuggets are 2 of them. Can you name the other 3?
The Hornets.
1.
Do the Pelicans count?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess the Hornets, but yeah.
Okay. Hornets. Make it. Let me think. Make your next point. Let me think on it. I promise I won't look it up, but make Make your next point. I'll think.
I think no matter if the Nuggets win this series, I think that the Lakers will beat them in 4 or 5 games max. If the Clippers win, I think it's the Lakers in 6. Either way, Lakers shoo in to make the finals. This has been best case scenario for them. Like you said, LeBron getting an extra rest. The Clippers having to go through this dogfight. Who knows how, fatigued Kawhi will be in the next series. But this is just – the stars are aligning for the Los Angeles Lakers, who I don't see a scenario where they don't win the NBA Finals. I always felt, even from the start, I just felt like this is just destiny for LeBron James. All right. Do you have the answer? And I'll just read them off to you.
Yeah, just read them off to me.
Timberwolves, Hornets / Pelicans, and the Grizzlies. The 3 other franchises to never make an NBA Finals.
I should have got – the Grizzlies could have thrown me off. The Timberwolves I should have got. I was going through the divisions. I didn't get there yet. But I think Clippers, Lakers, that's a series. The Clippers we've seen, they could turn it on and they could turn it off. I think against LA, that switches on the whole time, and it'd be a hell of a series.
I felt like it's been destined for Lakers Clippers, and if we don't get it, that would just be a huge, huge bummer for the sport because I don't know the Nuggets as great as it's like come on, we want to see Lakers Clippers, make it happen. 2 more things to get to before we head out of here. Eastern Conference Finals begin tonight as well. Heat and NBA best 8-1 in the postseason. They have 6 players averaging double figures. They've had 6 days of rest. Meanwhile, the Celtics, Gordon Hayward, not expected to be back for this game, but expected to be back at some point during the series. They just beat the Raptors in 7 games. Top defensive team in the bubble. I know you're connected to the Heat. What's your outlook on this series?
I'll just tell you this. I know Miami wanted to play Toronto. I'll tell you that straight up. Boston poses some difficult challenges for them between Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kemba. I mean, they just have all these different guys who can score. Miami hasn't faced a team yet this postseason with multiple scoring threats on the floor at once. Guys that really can create their own shot. And Toronto fit that mold where they didn't really have guys that can create their own shot. It was more of a system, that's what Miami's elite at stopping. Tatum's the best player in the series. You could argue Kemba might be 2. I'd take Jimmy Butler, but Kemba and Brown could be 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, however you break it down. I'm going to pick Miami. Because
to win the series?
Yeah, I think Miami in 7. I think it comes down to the wire, and I just think the tougher team wins, and I think Miami's the toughest team in the bubble right now. So I'm going to go with Miami 7.
Jimmy Butler is the best team to make the best player in the team to make the finals.
It's hard to fathom, but I think the way that he play is just it fits what Butler does so well, and Butler's attitude may be more important than his actual skill set. And that's why I would be more willing to believe that Butler could be the best player on an NBA Finals team in this bubble scenario with this Miami Heat roster than I would in a regular season.
I think this is the series where Jason Tatum officially puts himself on that, top.
He's the best player in the series, right? There's no debate about that. He's the best player.
Most talented. Butler may end up being the best player of the series, but I think that pure talent is Tatum. I mean, yeah, that's obvious. And I think that I don't know. I just can't. I can't see a scenario where, the Heat have been proving me wrong all postseason. So they'll probably win, but the Celtics should win. They got as you said, Tatum, Brown. Defensively they're just unbelievable. But the Heat have so much depth. So I don't know. It's a toss up. I like Celtics in 7.
Can I give you the one thing to watch? The one key to watch? Miami can match up small with Boston, which Toronto was unable to. A lot of Boston's runs in that series came when they went small and forced Toronto to play this wonky lineup they weren't necessarily comfortable with. Miami can go small to match those small ball Boston lineups with Bam at the center and still keeping some actual size integrity to match up with Boston's big wings. That's something to watch. And also, if Duncan Robinson can get going, that changes Miami's entire offensive complexion. So I'm sure Boston will try and take him out early, and Miami will also try to get him involved early. So his ability to catch fire could determine 1 or 2 games in the series.
And along with Tyler Hero as well.
Yeah.
Both of those guys are just
Hero should be a Celtic, by the way. That's the best, maybe the best subplot of this whole series. But
on the other side, because Tatum and Brown should be Nets. So no,
they should be Nets, and I would go to the grave dying. I talked to Eli this morning and said, I like this Boston team, except half the team should be on my damn team. Still angry.
For those who don't know, works for the Miami Heat video staff.
I also had a Dan Bisaccio jersey has been on the wall, by the way.
People don't know who these people are. You can't just bring up these random names.
Dan Bisaccio is the head video guy for Miami who played at Emerson with me, and I somehow had his jersey from his senior year. So
last week before we go, last week I said that I would be shocked if the Yankees won another game all season. Since I said that, they have not lost. They've gone 5-0. And
would you like to apologize? This is your platform to apologize, Frank.
Apologize to who?
The Yankees. For
all right, here's my state of the Yankees. All right, listen, they're getting guys back. Gleyber Torres has come back. They're getting Gio Urshela and Jonathan Loaiziga back today. Cashman said that Judge and Stan are coming back. So, things are moving in the right direction. I'm not going to get too excited here.
When I told you to relax last week and just let the season play out, I was right. You could say.
I mean, it was bad. I mean, last week at this time, it was the worst it's been in my Yankee lifetime. But
it was bad. It was bad.
Got it together. Luke Voigt has really, really stepped up, and I owe him a mea culpa. I'm not saying that he's the second coming or the first baseman of the future, but Greg Bird certainly is not. One of my just off base takes as a Yankee fan of my lifetime was Greg Bird, and I'll always maintain that one of the sweetest swings I've ever seen, but just couldn't stay on the field. And if he did, I mean, he could have been like
let's not harp on the past, Franco. Greg Bird has caused us too much pain before. Let's just move on from Bird. Talk about the Yankees we have. The Yankees we have now, excuse me. The Yankees we have right now have won 5 games in a row. They heard your rant last week. It went viral on social media, and viral is a very, 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 very loose term. They somehow caught wind of it, though, and they have been motivated and playing just to spite you. And it's funny because they're spiting you, but they're also bringing you joy. So I think it's like a win-win for everybody. They were upset that you were so frustrated, and now they're proving you wrong, but also making you happy they're winning. So
yeah, 2 weeks left, or a little over a week of the regular, which is crazy to think that there's only like a little over a week.
Who's the Yankees MVP right now?
I mean, how do you say anyone other than Luke Voigt? I mean,
it has to be, right? Yeah.
I don't think he's the most important player, not even close. But I mean, the season he's having, he's tied for the lead in homers. I mean, who'd ever thought that? But I mean, Gleyber and LeMahieu, those guys are way more important to the team. And you saw when they're right and they've come back from injury, it's a whole different complexion. And Judge and Stanton can come back and be if Judge can pick up where he. I mean, this team might. I mean, they could. I mean, they're still. I'd still consider them one of the top favorites to win the World Series. I mean,
without a doubt. I'll end with this, Frank. I'll end with this. Do the Yankees have to get an entire new training staff? Do you think that
when you when you get a new training staff, that means that you're changing the way the guys work out, and you're maybe at least in the short term making them more susceptible to injury. So this whole here's the issue. Here's the issue. The issue is that the weight training has become such a huge factor in baseball. And when you have all this weight training going on, you're more susceptible to strains and pulled muscles and that's why you're seeing Judge and Stanton, these two hulks of people just sulking, bulging muscles, ripping their jerseys. And Stanton, Judge, if they get hurt, just swinging the bat, running to first base. These should not be how you get hurt. I run the freaking hallway in my building every single damn day, and I had never come close to getting hurt.
Yeah, but you also don't have muscles bulging out of your shirt, Franco. Come on now. You don't compare yourself to the level of athlete Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Or that. I'm not going to let you take that.
Garbage. A straight line without getting hurt. I'm sick of it.
But you look at the Phoenix Suns, and that training staff's renowned for extending guys' careers. I'm just saying, do you think it's worth moving forward for this franchise, looking into just a completely different method of training to hopefully keep
I don't know what the answer is.
On a year-by-year basis, same guys get hurt in the same stupid ways.
It's such an easy scapegoat. That is such trash. Find a better excuse. Be better. Be smart.
I'm looking.
That's it for this podcast.
I'm just looking for a solution.
We're on Apple Podcast. Download and subscribe. I gotta hit stop recording wherever that button is, and that's it. Goodbye. We'll see you next week.